Hi, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to another session of Tsaaro Academy. Today, we are going to know about how you can pursue an LLM in Netherlands. Before going ahead, I would like to just give you a brief about Tsaaro Academy. Tsaaro Academy is a training platform. We give the right training as per the international standards. We have our official training partners. We have partnered with IIPP. We have partnered with PECB, DSCI. We have been featured in multiple publications. I'll just give you a brief about me. My name is Sahil Wadhwa, Head of Operations at Tsaaro Academy. Today with me, I have Mr. Samrat Basu, a data privacy specialist, a product data analyst at BOL.com. I welcome you, Samrat.
I think first I would like to talk about my journey to the Netherlands from India and being a lawyer in India, and then maybe we can go into the nuances of the application and the formalities and things like that. So I worked in India for about 3 years in Cyril Ramanathan Mangaldas, which is one of the top law firms in India. I also worked at Vidhi Center for Legal Policy, where I was closely involved with Justice Sri Krishna and the Sri Krishna Committee in drafting India's data protection law. So with those experiences, I wanted to build on it and work in data and privacy and big tech in Europe and do GDPR work. And so I decided that moving abroad somewhere in Europe would be the logical next step in my career. Having said that, there are obviously a lot of colleges and a lot of countries. You have, London, the UK, uh, Belgium, Ireland, Netherlands, Germany, and students for students it's difficult to sort of decide where they should go for their studies. And I have friends in all of these different jurisdictions who've also done their masters and were practicing. So I think I'm well positioned to be able to sort of guide you in this direction. And I think wherever you go in Europe, there's honestly no wrong decision or no wrong sort of university. Wherever you go and wherever you pursue a tech program, you will learn a lot. You will meet great academics and batchmates who will be future privacy leaders in Europe. So I think if you're an Indian lawyer watching this webinar, I would highly recommend that once you have a few years of workings, 2 years to 5 years, I think that's the sweet spot. You should think about pursuing a master's from the Netherlands or any of these other European countries, but I'll be focusing on Netherlands because that's where I pursued my master's. So I went to Leiden Law School and did the Law and Digital Technologies program. And I'll just share the screen with the slide deck. All of you can see. So the first question is why LLM in data protection law? So there's no specific LLM only in privacy and data protection law. Most of the master's program in the Netherlands is law and technology, and within that there are a few spheres that and a few subjects that you can choose. One of which is data protection and privacy. There is, of course, competition law. There is AI and digital technologies and their confluence. There's e-commerce law. There's intellectual property law. So these are, and obviously generally like regulation of technology. So these are the many different streams within a law and technology masters. And once you decide to pursue a law and technology masters, you can choose which streams or which subjects that you can look at. I would strongly recommend doing privacy and data protection because there are a lot of opportunities in Europe for data protection lawyers, and there are honestly a dearth of quality lawyers in Europe who are practicing data protection and privacy. So I think there are a lot of opportunities in this jurisdiction for sure. I know I have many friends who've come here to the Netherlands, and now they're working here in various privacy roles in various different organizations, and like top organizations like Tesla, Meta, Philips, so on and so forth, Deloitte. So I think there are a lot of opportunities that one can sort of unlock with the LLM degree. Okay, things to consider while doing an LLM. Okay, so you've decided that you want to do a master's and you've decided on a few colleges. So the next few steps that come is the statement of purpose. In the statement of purpose, it's very important to showcase your publications, your interest towards technology and privacy. And in order to show that, it's very important to talk about practical experiences or actual papers or articles that you've published in these areas. I think that's the first most important part of your statement of purpose. Show practical experiences or publications in the law and tech space, so that is like a green tick for colleges who are looking at your application. So that's the first most important thing. The second thing that they're looking for in your statement of purpose is to see whether you've actually done research on the courses and the professors who are offering those courses, so and their publication. So I would recommend mentioning a few professors from the course and why you want to study under them. Talk about their publications, and so essentially, their publications are usually listed on the university website. So you just have to go to the university website, look at the courses, see who's teaching, go through their publications, and put one or two interesting publications that you came across in your statement of purpose, and say that this is the kind of research that so and so professor is doing, and I'm interested in also doing that kind of work or research during my masters. So I think that's the second most important thing in your statement of purpose. The third important thing is, with your work experience and your research interest, you need to talk about the skills that you've acquired. Whether it's in your work, whether it's in the research that you've done. The few pillars that are important for any good lawyer is writing skills, research skills, editing skills, and being able to break complex issues in law down for clients, being able to communicate effectively to clients, helping them solve data privacy or technology issues across different sort of sectors. So I remember in my application I talked about this one very complicated advisory work that I was doing for a client. I won't name the client, but it's one of the largest tech companies in the world, and they were entering into a health data space, and they wanted to process health data and derive insights from them to help blind patients help doctors understand when a patient is approaching blindness, more specifically blindness through diabetes. It's called diabetic retinopathy. So essentially they were looking at all of these iris scans and feeding it into their AI algorithm to determine whether someone is approaching diabetic retinopathy. And so they had come to us to sort of see how to process the sensitive data, because iris scans are biometric data and they fall under sensitive personal data. And so this entire experience is something that you, or like any other similar experiences that you have, this is something personally that I put in my statement of purpose, where I worked with the client and went through each and every use case and help them, solve this problem of sensitive personal data and how they can handle it. Where we gave them pointed advice on, okay, stepwise, these are the things that they needed to do. So I'm not getting into the details of that, but effectively take something from your professional life and try to put that, because in the statement of purpose, they want to know you and your experiences as a lawyer. It's not important to talk about extracurricular activities and okay, you're interested in singing or dancing. So those kind of things are not important and they should not be in your statement of purpose. It should only be your professional experience, publications, grades, research interests, professors who you want to study under, why you want to study under. So these are the most important parts of the statement of purpose. Once you've written your statement of purpose, then take the IELTS or TOEFL, the English language proficiency test. In the Netherlands, although Dutch is the primary language, the official language, however, everyone in the Netherlands speaks English and all master's courses are in English. So you don't have to worry about knowing Dutch or any other, like I believe in France it's important to know French and in Germany it's important to know German. That's not the case in the Netherlands. Everyone speaks English. Even if you go to a supermarket, everyone is speaking English. So that's absolutely not an issue. But you need to have a certain level of English in order to get admission, and those are usually mentioned in the website of these universities that you can apply to. So once you've figured out your statement of purpose, you've taken the IELTS, the next most important thing is recommendation letters. Usually you need about 2 recommendation letters, and typically I would recommend having one academic referee, someone who taught you in college, and one professional referee. Different colleges have different requirements. You have to. Sometimes they only want one academic. Sometimes they want a combination of academic and professional. So I would suggest one professional referee, maybe someone you worked with. It could be a client as well. It could be your partner, or it could be a general counsel if you're working in house, or if you're working in a policy think tank, it can be a research lead. So just get one professional recommendation and one academic. It's not important to have famous people or judges recommending you. What's more important is the person who's recommending you, they should know your work and they should be able to say that, okay, I've worked with this person on XYZ projects and, he did well and, why he did well and what those projects were. So that's more important. If possible, if you worked with any alumni of these universities, then that helps. So if you are getting a recommendation letter from someone who's already studied in the university that you're applying, then that definitely does. Or if someone has taught in one of those universities where you're applying, then that carries a lot of weight. So then that's about it. And you have to pay the application fee. Application fee is usually around 100 euros, which is around 80,000 rupees. And some colleges waive the application fees as well. So that's something you can look at. And then that's it. And you have to send in your application. Typically, the deadline for submitting applications is towards the end of March, but I would recommend that you should ideally finish your applications before Christmas. So now is a good time for the webinar. So you have about 2 months. So I think on Christmas time is a good time because that's when, if you're working professionally, you have some time. So if you are working on your applications for 1 or 2 hours every day towards the end of Christmas, you can finally apply. The reason why these applications take time is that, okay, once you write your statement of purpose or your recommendation letters, it's important to make sure that you show it and get it reviewed by your seniors or your friends or your acquaintances who've gone to these universities and done a master's, because then they will give you comments and that's how you can improve it. So this process usually takes about a month because you'll be sending it to maybe 2-3 different friends or acquaintances, and once they give their feedback and comments on your statement of purpose, where you can improve, how you can make your language better, then it takes another week or so to incorporate these changes, and then finally you can apply. So that's why it takes about 2 months to apply. Now, the last point, apart from the cost of the application, an important point to discuss is the cost of tuition fees, and how much does it actually cost to do LLM from the Netherlands. And it's important to look at it in context. So in the Netherlands, typically tuition fees range between 15,000 to 20,000 euros. That's between 12 and 16 lakhs. So just to give you context, in the UK, the annual fees are around 28,000 pounds, which is about 27 lakhs. So it's significantly cheaper than going to the UK, and that's an important criteria. And especially after Brexit, I think there are more opportunities in the Netherlands and Ireland as well. Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, and Ireland than in the UK. So one, the cost is significantly cheaper. Then scholarships. There are scholarships that you can apply for. The two best programs in the Netherlands for law and technology are offered by Leiden University, where I went, and Tilburg University, where I was teaching as a lecturer in law and tech. So these are the two best programs in law and technology in the Netherlands currently. And with both these programs, they are excellent, and it can be difficult to choose, but regardless of where you go, you'll be getting a very, very high quality education. So, and with respect to scholarships in Leiden, there's something called the Leiden Excellence Scholarships, which all of you can apply for. And in Tilburg, there's something called the Orange Tulip India Scholarships, which is specifically for Indians. So that's a scholarship that I would highly recommend everyone to apply for, because it's only for Indians, so it's much easier and there is much less competition to get that scholarship. Okay. So I've covered low tuition fees and languages. Yeah, the law schools are very well reputed. The teachers who will teach you, they work for the European Commission. They're partners in law firms in Europe. Then there are industry leaders who come and teach all the time. So you get a good grounding in both academia, practice, and theory. So I think it's a good combination. At the same time, I feel that more so than the US or the UK, I think Europe is where all the action is for law and tech. We all know the GDPR, but the Data Act has just come into force. The Digital Markets Act, Digital Services Act, regulation of AI, all of these things are being thought about and debated every single day at these universities. So if you go there, you sort of become a part of the community. And for a lot of students, they may also then choose to go on to do a PhD instead of going into practice. And the PhD programs here are excellent, and most importantly, they pay you a salary, as opposed to other programs in the UK or the US, where you have to pay tuition fees and you're effectively a student for the 4 years that you do your PhD. But in the Netherlands, you're an employee and you are paid, I think it's around, the starting salary for PhD students is around 2,600 euros, which is around 2.2 lakhs a month. So that's a pretty decent salary even in the Netherlands to start off if you are interested in pursuing academia. Okay, so I think I've discussed the application procedure. I think I've discussed this as well. Of having an LLM it's a super useful LLM. I think it's very practical, and there's so many different things that you can do with it. I'm currently working in bold.com, which is an e-commerce company, which is basically the Amazon of Netherlands. So bol.com is number one, and Amazon is number two in Netherlands and Belgium. So you can do in-house jobs in big tech companies. You can work for consulting firms such as Deloitte, KPMG, EY, PwC. Then you can work for law firms. Although it's important to know that to get a law firm job in the Netherlands, they generally require you to know some Dutch, and if not Dutch, at least some one European language. So it could be Spanish or French or German. But that's generally a requirement for law firms. But there are exceptions. For example, there's a law firm called Blackstone, which does not have this requirement. And I know people who've joined law firms in Brussels and London after a degree here, where obviously they didn't need to know a European language. Then so academia, I think I've talked about a PhD, but there are lots of openings in policy where you can work with the European Commission and the European Parliament and also independent think tanks on tech and privacy. And this is a fast moving field, and there's a lot of research work that's happening. And the LLM is going to give you a grounding in research as well, because you'll have to write your LLM master's thesis, which essentially teaches you to develop your research skills, and then those same skills can be used subsequently to work in government or policy or academia. So so that's another sort of area in which you can work. So effectively, in-house companies, policy, think tank, government, academia, law firms, and consultancies. Cool. Yeah, so I think broadly these are the points that I had to share. But apart from that, I think there are a few additional incentives that students who are interested in studying in the Netherlands should know. The first important thing to know is that if you are applying to the Netherlands, housing is a big issue. So make sure when you are applying in December, by January you've applied for a house, because if you don't apply for a house in time, which is by December or January, very, very difficult to get affordable housing, next to impossible. So, keep this in mind. Another important element associated with housing is that if you get a studio apartment for yourself and you don't share it with flatmates, then the government gives you about 200 euros back every month, which is about 18,000 rupees. So every month you get 18,000 rupees from the government. They don't distinguish between European citizens and foreigners or Indians such as us. So everyone gets that benefit, which helps to lower your cost of doing a master's here. And so this is one big important aspect, housing and the housing rent allowance, which the government gives in the Netherlands. The second important thing to know, and why it makes Netherlands an attractive destination to pursue your master's or your PhD, is something called the 30% tax benefit. So the Netherlands is very, very different from India in terms of population demography. So essentially, the Netherlands is an aging country, and they don't have a sufficient young workforce. They don't have a sufficient young unskilled workforce, nor do they have a sufficient young skilled workforce. So think about people delivering food, or restaurants serving food, or lawyers in different roles, MBAs. So there's a huge dearth of qualified professionals as well as unskilled workers. Because of that, they really want to attract talent to the Netherlands. So in order to do so, if you come and do a master's in the Netherlands, or if you're directly hired from abroad into the Netherlands, then you get a 30% tax benefit for 5 years. What this means is that effectively the income tax in Netherlands is about 37%, and with this 30% benefit, it goes down to about 18% or 20%. This can mean upwards of 50,000 to 1 lakh per month extra in your account if you're working in the Netherlands in tax benefit. So it's pretty big. So this is also something that you should consider. And I think on the same topic, another important area to sort of understand is after the LLM, how much money do you think you would be making if you're working here as a privacy professional? So I think obviously it varies on your capabilities and abilities, and also your qualifications and your previous work experience. So I think the first thing is that if you don't have work experience, if you're just fresh out of law school in India, don't come here. Take the time to get 2 years of work experience or 3 years of work experience before coming here. So essentially, salaries for privacy professionals depends on their capability and their work experience. So I would recommend at least having 1 or 2 years of work experience in India before moving to the Netherlands. And if you have that 2-3 years of experience and then you move here, I think you can expect anywhere between 40 to 100,000. So basically 40,000 to 100,000, which is in INR about, at the lowest end, you can expect about 30 lakhs. And the highest end, you can expect about 1 crore. So that's the salary bracket for people who have about 2-3 years of work experience, and then they're doing their masters in the Netherlands, and then they start working. So this is before tax, and then you get the 30% tax ruling, which is definitely a big added incentive. So yeah, any questions? I'm happy to take questions. Or Sahil, if you have any questions, or yeah.
Yes, Samrat. So I guess like the people are actually enjoying the session and they have a quick questions for you in the chat box. I'll just iterate the question and you can just give them the answers.
Yeah, sure.
So they're asking that can you just mention the name of the scholarship?
Yeah, so Leiden Excellence Scholarship and the Orange Tulip. This is for Leiden University. For Tilburg University, it's the Tilburg Orange Tulip India Scholarship.
Okay. So very well. What we can actually do is like they're asking that if we can put it in the chat box. So after the
Yeah,
session, we'll just put it in the comment section of the event and they can actually view it. Uh, so we have another question. Like if someone wants to pursue LLM in data privacy, okay. So is it better to do it after a few years of professional experience, or can it can be done right after the college? What would be a better option for
no,
them?
no, don't do it right after college. Get a few years of work experience. It's obviously best if you have work experience in tech or privacy, but it might be difficult to get those jobs in out of college in India. That's okay. You can work in any job, but make sure you get 2 years of experience in India. And once you get that, in that time, if you're interested in tech and privacy, try and publish articles in tech and privacy, and then move to Netherlands. Then it will be much easier for you to get a job. If you come directly, then you will not get a job. You'll have to go back to India. So yeah.
Okay. So one of the person is asking that can you tell about the job opportunities and the position available after LLM in data privacy?
Yeah, I think I discussed it, but essentially you can get jobs in consultancies such as Deloitte, PwC, EY. You can get jobs in in-house roles such as in Meta, in Bowl, in Amazon, in Shell, in Reckitt, Unilever. These are big Philips. These are big employers. ASML in the Netherlands. So you can get in-house roles as a privacy professional, privacy lawyer here. Apart from this, you can get roles in policy and think tank, and then you can also go for academia and PhD, which is also a paid position in the Netherlands.
And I believe there's one more question which say that do we get internship as well while doing our LLM?
So Yes and no. So I think if you're doing your LLM, you can work for up to 16 hours in a week. This is the law in the Netherlands. If you're not from the EU, which we obviously aren't because we were living in India before moving here. So you can do a maximum of 16 hours in a week, or you can not intern for the whole year, and then once your course ends in May or June, you can intern for I think 2 months in the summer full time. So these are the two options that you have. But I think it's important to note that if you take a paid internship, then you lose the 30% tax benefit. So this is something to keep in mind. So if you are interning, try and do unpaid internships, because otherwise, because 30% is linked to your first job, and a paid internship counts as a first job, and there's a certain salary requirement, which is 30,000 euros for a young professional under 30 years with a master's degree. And because an internship will not pay 30,000 euros annually, you will lose the 30% tax. So yeah.
There's one question that besides the tuition cost, what is the
Yeah.
cost of living in INR in Leiden?
Yeah. So I think so the rent is typically around 700 euros. So in INR, that would be about 55,000 rupees, 55 to 60,000 rupees a month. And your living expenses is another 40,000. So expenditure is essentially about 1 lakh a month, apart from tuition expenses for I think 12 months. So that's 12 lakhs. But it's important to keep in mind that of this, if you live in a studio apartment, the government gives you rent allowance. So you get about 20,000 rupees back. So your effective cost per month will be 80,000, not 1 lakh. And health insurance is also mandatory in the Netherlands, but because you don't have an income, I think health insurance is around 10,000 rupees a month here. But the government pays you back the full 10,000. So you have to first take it, and then the government will pay it back to you. So health insurance cost is also zero. So effectively, it will come to about 80,000 rupees a month for 1 year.
Okay. So we have one, very good question. So I usually saying that thank you for the wonderful session. I have a question here. I've recently moved to Amsterdam. I have a work experience of 6 years. However, the same is in arbitration and litigation. So the question is, how can I switch to privacy law and how should I direct my statement of purpose?
Okay. So if you have 6 months or 6 years of experience in arbitration, the good thing is that you already have experience, and I don't think there's any bar. You can switch whenever. What's important, I think, is to read up on privacy and technology, and try and publish a few articles in this field that shows that you have interest essentially to any LLM program or employer. And you can also look at if you need help with your statement of purpose, then look at the programs that you're looking at. University of Amsterdam also has a new law and technology program, which in fact my supervisor from Leiden has moved from Leiden to I think Rye University Amsterdam. His name is Mark Leiser. So maybe you can have a look at his research and work. Yeah, so University of Amsterdam for law and technology is also great. So is Leiden and Tilburg. So I think all you need to do is talk about your interest in the area, look at different professors in the program who and read their work and talk about their work in your statement of purpose and why you want to study under them. I think that's a good first step to get into the program. Once you're in the program, then again, try and publish as much as possible. And then once you're done with the program, then you can apply for jobs and say that, look, I've written XYZ, I've researched on XYZ, and this is what I want my career to go. This is the direction. So I think that's how you can pivot to privacy.
So, Samrat, let's take one last question for the evening. Uh, Question is like, if someone wants to pursue LLM in data privacy in Netherlands, along with IP law, so are there any courses in Netherlands, or is Netherlands good pursue IP law?
I think the answer is yes. I think Tilburg has a great IP program. It's taught by uh, this wonderful, very smart lady called Sunimal Mendes. She teaches intellectual property in Tilburg University, and I think that program is excellent. It's challenging, it's difficult, but that's something. If you're interested in intellectual property, that's something you can look at. At the same time, Mark Leiser is also he teaches intellectual property as well. He's in Vrije University Amsterdam, so that's also another program that you can look at. Having said this, apart from Netherlands, I think the Queen Mary University in London has a pretty good intellectual property program as well. So maybe you should consider that program as well.
Thanks a lot, Samrat. I guess there are a lot of more questions which are coming in the chat box, but considering the time frame, so I would request you, Samrat, if you could take some time after the session and you can just reply them back so that they have an
Where
understanding.
is it? I can't see the questions. It's not on the Zoom call chat. So
So the questions will be available on the LinkedIn event. That's directly live on LinkedIn, so you would be able to find it there. Uh, so rest, if anyone is looking up for any of the courses regarding Tsaaro and Tsaaro Academy in the field of data privacy, so they can just contact us, so they can just scan this QR code and they can just fill up a form, and our team would be connecting with them. Uh, so I just want to thank you, Samrat. Thanks a lot for giving us your time and sharing your thoughts on how someone can pursue LLM in Netherlands.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Can you please repeat? Yeah.
So yeah, Samrat, I was just saying that okay, like let's moving towards the closure of the session. So I was just giving you a note of thank you for giving us your time and sharing your thoughts on how someone can actually pursue LLM in Netherlands.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to do this. Hopefully, it was useful to everyone who was viewing in. And yeah, if you have any other questions, you can always drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'll try my best to respond.
Thanks a lot, Samrat.
Bye.